Hey everybody, it's Rob from Ambient Guitar Explorations, and I just wanted to make a video talking about some of the common misconceptions surrounding ambient guitar and ambient music in general. And primarily, I think there's this idea that, and it's common to hear this, that ambient guitar and ambient music is just relegated to the category of like lush, gentle soundscapes with like long, sustained notes and awash in deep reverb. Just the really kind of like ethereal, airy sort of stuff. Whoa, that sort of thing. A lot of people think that if you're talking about doing ambient guitar or ambient music, it's got to be just like long, sustained guitar notes, awash in reverb, or synths that kind of the notes just carry on and are expansive and cavernous. A lot of people don't realize that this is only a very limited view of what is really meant by ambient guitar or ambient music in general. Now, a lot of the greatest ambient music artists of all time made music that didn't always fall into this category. Think of Brian Eno, and a lot of his work involved rhythmic changes and things like that. And Aphex Twin, of course, you have his classic ambient works, lots of rhythm going on, and the common bond between what is referred to as ambient music is not that sort of like lush, long, sustained notes and soundscapes. It's really just the idea that your main focus in the work is not going to be necessarily the melody. It's not necessarily going to be melody and harmony and constructing what a lot of people would call a conventional song. There's not going to be a verse, a chorus, and another verse, and maybe a refrain later on. And a lot of what you're doing when you make ambient music or ambient guitar, ambient synth music, ambient electronic music is focusing on the way the sounds and the textures, and focusing on maybe using noises that aren't necessarily parts of more conventional styles of songcraft. And so it's a really expansive genre of making music. There's very little in the way of rules. Now, obviously, if you're picking up an acoustic guitar and playing a Bob Dylan song, you're not doing ambient music, but you could do like an ambient informed version of something like that. Like, say, if you wanted to record Bob Dylan's Visions of Johanna, instead of just simply sitting there strumming the chords and singing along, you could have like an electric guitar and have it plugged into some pedals with some reverb pedals and focus on creating space between the notes and a lot of air in between the notes. Maybe you have a looper and you'll lay down some like guitar noises as like a rhythmic structure. And that itself, that rhythmic structure then is going to be comprised of elements of ambient guitar. And you can then layer some like textural noises on top of that and create like loops and then layer the chords over that. And so essentially what you're getting is like an ambient version of a folk rock song by Bob Dylan. I believe, I'm not a purist, and I believe that itself could be viewed as within the genre of ambient guitar music. If you sing, maybe some people start to say, well, that extends outward. Yes, but it's like it's living in two worlds at that point. It's an ambient guitar song, but it's also reaching into the conventional song categories. And for that reason, I would count many of my favorite artists as many of my favorite guitarists as ambient guitarists, even though they maybe are not, considered as such. I'm thinking of like Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead, does a lot of just ambient textural stuff in Radiohead's music, and he also has solo stuff, and specifically that he's done for films, particularly films by Paul Thomas Anderson, that are definitely ambient works. And I'm also thinking of like Thurston Moore and Lee Ronaldo from Sonic Youth. A lot of Sonic Youth music has entire sections that I would describe as being ambient guitar music. They're focused more on the textures and the sounds of things, and using the guitar as an instrument to make noises that aren't easily, put into the category of melodic or harmonic. They're more just, there's resonances with the guitar and just textures and sounds and pulsations and also, the more ethereal, dreamy, expansive, sustained notes that are more commonly viewed as what ambient music is. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that, like, there's developed a sort of a limited view and a limited understanding of what ambient guitar and ambient music more generally might be. And I think it's important for people who want to make music that doesn't fall into those conventional song structures of rock or pop or whatever, and who want to branch out and kind of do a more like textural sort of guitar playing or music making, to realize that you don't have to limit yourself with those rules. You don't have to, do the swells and the drenched in reverb ambient stuff. If you're doing ambient music, you can absolutely take a more rhythmic approach or a noisy approach or any number of things.